You know, the most romantic thing that has ever happened between us, our first marathon was the Bilbao night marathon. So in northern Spain, it was at night. So it was dark, people on the street drinking beer, having fun. How many, Santosh, do you think were in fancy dress? Because I can tell you the answer is two. And that's done.
I think it strengthens the relationship. You obviously, and let's say you're doing a 6-day, 7-day race, there are inevitably ups and downs, and there are times when you're annoyed with each other and you wish you'd stop moaning and go a bit faster. And there are times when you're having great fun together and you're seeing things that you would want to share with your husband or wife, and times of great hilarity and fun, and so I think, but overall you've got this shared experience that no one can ever take away.
Folks, that is Eleanor and Barry Matthews, and I am Santosh Shiva, your host. Welcome to another episode of RunYogi Diaries. Eleanor and Barry love pursuing fitness and endurance together, and for a good reason. Studies also show that participating in an exciting physical challenge together with your partner helps couples report higher levels of intimacy in their relationship. So folks, it's time that we consider working out with our partners is just not good for health, but also good for relationship. Let's talk to this lovely couple and find out more.
Welcome to RunYogi Diaries, Eleanor and Barry. Really appreciate you taking the time and joining me here.
Good to be here.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Thank you.
And you guys you're in London, and it's a pleasure to speak with somebody who's in London. It's first time for me in the podcast, so that's even better. And
we're just outside of London, actually. We're in Oxfordshire at the moment, not too far from London, and we do spend a lot of time in London, but we live in a place called Woodstock in Oxfordshire.
So thanks a lot for being on the show. What we want to talk about is really, first off, you guys are specialists in straight races, which is very special, very different. A lot of swimming-based endurance activities, and you guys have done a lot of stuff together as a couple. So we want to get into what does it mean to be when you say power couple in literal sense, athletically powerful people. So those are things I want to talk about, and really thanks for being there. So with that, I want to kind of quickly hand it over back to you to introduce yourself, and then we'll dig in.
Do you want to start?
Of course. So my name's Eleanor Matthews. I, as you say, work in corporate life, and I de-stress through running and cycling on the Peloton. Rarely do I make it out on the open road because it feels terribly dangerous to me. And as of last year, took up swim run with this one. He kind of forced me into the water. So that's me. Yeah,
and I'm Barry Matthews. I'm the other half, and I've been running marathons and ultra marathons and Ironmen and various different endurance challenges for the last 25 years or so. And we've been married. We've only been married a couple of years, but we've been together for 6 years now. I think we've worked together for about 12. And since we've been together, our sort of interest in keeping fit and running collided or combined. And so we've done quite a few races together.
When I was reading about, your background, what stood out was the fact that you guys did a honeymoon in Iceland, which was like a multi-day race and multi-day run hike. How was that like?
Yeah, I mean, we combined the race. It's a race called Run Iceland, which is just fantastic. It's a 6-day running race, a stage race. And then afterwards, we had a week or so of staying in nice hotels and relaxing and recovering. But the race itself is amazing. It's very, very well organized. Every day you go to a different location and do a run. It's pretty small. It's sort of 20, 25 runners, something like that. So you get to know everybody pretty well. Each day is around sort of, probably on average about 20 miles, something like that. I think the longest day is a marathon. But each day you're going to really cool places. You're running through waterfalls, running next to icebergs and up glaciers and around volcanoes, and you just see the most spectacular sights. Iceland is a very, very special country. And then in the evenings, you have dinner together, and you get, as I say, you get to know all of the other competitors. And we absolutely loved it. It was a great thing to do. I think actually for a honeymoon, it's not not everybody's cup of tea.
It was my first stage race, so I'd never done that thing of running to the point of exhaustion and then getting up the next morning and doing it again. So it was a massive experience, actually. And by the end, I really needed my week of luxury in hotels.
Yeah. You needed a vacation, a real vacation.
Yeah,
and you sort of feel that you've earned it after you've run that far and you've been exhausted every day. You really enjoy the next week because you really get a chance to recover. Although because we're pretty adventurous, we ended up horse riding for a day and walking up into the mountains to go to the hot springs and
swimming between the tectonic plates, between the American plate and the European plate. There's a split, and it's moving apart every year, and there's water in there that is just over freezing, and you put your dry suit on and you can go in and you can swim around with your snorkel. It was incredible.
Yeah, so we didn't relax that much actually, but we rarely do. But it was a really nice special thing to do together, which we will remember. And I'd done lots of stage races, and as Eleanor says, it was her first one. It was quite nice to sort of show you the ropes and to do it together. And
Iceland was an extraordinary place to do it because the landscape is like nothing you've ever seen. It's like landing on the moon.
Yeah.
And each day you'd go to something completely different and completely extraordinary in a different way. And it was perfect for me because it's quite temperate, it's quite cold. So I hate running when it's hot. The Sahara Desert run that Barry did would just absolutely do me in. So the temperatures were quite cold. But so one day we did a full marathon distance, and you're running through the mountains and it's freezing. And you get to the end and you've done your 26.2 miles and it's exhausting. And you come down this most beautiful landscape where you can see water at the end. And as you get there, you can see the steam coming off the water. And we literally took our clothes off and got in this water, and it was like stepping into a warm bath. It was absolutely magical.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And all of the competitors were in these hot springs afterwards, and we had some cold beers in there. It was a really special way to finish a marathon, that's for sure.
So are you both competitive?
No and yes. So this is really hard for him because since we've been running together, I'm quite slow and I'm not competitive at all. As long as I get through it and survive it and enjoy bits of it, then I'm kind of happy. And he's so good because he will plod along with me and reminds me why I'm doing it and try and make jokes, which doesn't always go down that well when you've run a long way. I once said to him on a marathon, can you please stop trying to cheer me up? I don't like jokes and I don't like music.
It's a distraction tactic, you see. If we can get her mind off the pain, then she doesn't worry about it. That's the theory anyway, but it doesn't really work. When I do things on my own, I'm much more competitive. And when we do things together, it's really just for the experience as opposed to getting any personal bests. And to be honest, I quite like doing the really long races, and we like doing really long things together because it's really not about the personal best. We're getting older now anyway, so we don't tend to go very fast. But it's just about the experience, right? So I don't mind being overtaken and us coming in near the back of the pack. It's no problem. It's all about the experience. Whereas when I've done things on my own, which I've done lots of, I'm much more competitive and try and finish as fast as I can. So it's slightly different mentality when you're running together as opposed to when you're running apart.
Imagine how demoralizing it is. When we did the London Marathon together, we got overtaken by Jesus, who was running barefoot with a cross on his back. We got overtaken by a man carrying a fridge. We got overtaken by a man in a suit of armor. So,
yeah.
And I was fine with all this, but I think it got got a little bit much to bear in the end.
I've done the London Marathon quite a few times, and I think my fastest was about 3 hours 15. So I'm not like a ridiculously fast marathon runner. I'm quite big and heavy. But this one was probably 2 hours on top of that.
To be beaten by a man carrying a fridge is a step too far.
Barry is probably thinking, look, guys, I've got my sweetheart with me. I don't care if you just go ahead of me. I don't care, right? That's what Barry's thinking to himself, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. It's a lovely thing to be able to do together. You know, I do count myself very lucky that the woman that I love able to share my passion for sports with. You know, it's a nice thing that we can do together. Quite often, I think couples, one of them will go out and run probably to get away from the other one and get a bit of time on their own. And it's actually quite nice that we can do it together. We don't do everything together. We do, we'll go off and run on our own occasionally, or we'll do our own thing. But when we're training for an event, we'll quite often do it together, and it's nice. It's a nice shared thing to do.
It is, and those moments where it's all a bit hard, and there are a few of those on these long races. He'll suddenly magic a packet of chocolate out of a sleeve, and suddenly it's all worthwhile. Yeah. So you spot my flagging mood, don't you, and keep me going in those moments when it's quite hard.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you that, how does it change your relationship, especially those stage races that you do? Like you're out there for multiple days, and you're slugging it out, and both of you have different mindsets. One is competitive, another one wants to relax and just have a good time, soaking the whole experience in. So I was actually going to ask, how does it affect your relationship? What do you take away from these kind of events at the end of it?
I think it strengthens the relationship. You obviously, and let's say you're doing, a 6-day, 7-day race, there are inevitably ups and downs, and there are times when you're annoyed with each other, and you wish you'd stop moaning and go a bit faster. And there are times when you're having great fun together, and you're seeing things that you would want to share with your husband or wife, and times of great hilarity and fun, and so I think, but overall you've got this shared experience that no one can ever take away, and so I think it brings you stronger together. We're both pretty patient people anyway, so we rarely, we don't argue much, thankfully. So, but there are inevitably times where we get fed up with each other on the long run.
It's like having a baby, Santosh. The mum and the dad have a really, really different experience, but at the end, you're both kind of united in joy. When we get to the end of races, I always feel absolutely amazing. And whereas 20 minutes before, I've been swearing under my breath with every step, that minute when you cross the finish line, it's brilliant. And I know in my heart I would probably stop if it weren't for the fact that he was such an incredible support, and he's so good at saying, do you know what, let's get this into context. That tree there that you can see, we're going to run to there, and then we'll see how we feel. And it's true, you feel different, but because by the time you get to that tree, all your chemicals in your body feel different, and you're a little bit closer, and there's another bigger number in front of you on those signs you run past. You've left 25 behind you, and there's 26.
Running marathons, as you all know, it's all, it's as much mental as it is physical. So getting to halfway is easy, and from 20 to 26 is relatively easy because you've done it. It's that bit from sort of 13 to 20 which is hard. And so if I can take her mind off that bit, and we can feel good running between 13 and 20, then I know from 20 onwards is fine. You could walk that bit if you really want to, but you don't want to because your head suddenly takes over, and you're almost there. You've run 6 miles so many times in your life that nothing's going to stop you. And so it's just getting through that middle bit, which is the hard bit that in my head I have to get you through.
Do you know the most romantic thing that has ever happened between us? Our first marathon was the Bilbao night marathon. So in northern Spain, it was at night. So what time did we leave? 10 o'clock or something was the start time. So it was dark. People on the street drinking beer, having fun. We turned up thinking it was a night marathon. There's going to be music and laughter and fun. So we dressed as Superman and Supergirl. So there's a field of maybe 6,000 runners, something like that. How many, Santosh, do you think were in fancy dress? Because I can tell you the answer is 2, and that's all. So I felt like a bit of an idiot. And so we're running along, and about 6 miles in, my thighs, I had made such a rookie area. I'd never run in this costume before, and my thighs were bleeding from rubbing. It was really bad. And so Barry goes into one of those horrible, stinky portaloos that you get on the side of the marathon, and he takes off his shorts underneath his Superman outfit, and he gives them to me, and I put on these horrible, sweaty shorts. And the relief was just amazing. That is the most romantic thing he's ever done to me.
Yes.
So how did it all get started for you individually?
Yeah, well, I started, we've both been very sporty all of our lives. And I was a rugby player and played a lot of rugby, pretty good standard competitively till I was about, late 20s or so. And then I ran just to, keep fit. And I probably did my first marathon in 95 or something like that, just to keep fit. And then I found that I could do it without being absolutely exhausted, and I really enjoyed it. And so then I did another one and another one, and I then, with a friend, set up a sports company organizing endurance sports events, triathlons and multi-sport events with kayaking and mountain biking and running, and so organized events for other people. And then also did different events myself, and got into, rather than just doing a marathon, to do an ultra marathon, and I'd do a stage race. And so I've done, over the years, lots and lots of marathons and ultra marathons and stage races. And then I thought just to mix it up a bit, I'll get into doing a few triathlons. I've done a few Ironmen. And then, more recently, just to mix it up a bit further, we discovered swim run, which is it's not a new concept. It's something which came out as, I think Special Forces in Sweden started doing it sort of 20 years ago, but it has been quite focused in the Scandinavian, then European market, I think. And we decided to do it together. Eleanor used to be a swimmer. I'm an okay swimmer, and we love the concept is, you run from, island to island, or from beach to beach, and you run to the sea or the lake or wherever it is, and then you just jump in your shoes and you start swimming to the next island. And so you don't change at all as you do in triathlon. You're, for the duration of the race, you're wearing the same clothes, and so you basically run in a shorty sort of wetsuit. And then you swim in your shoes. You're allowed to use hand paddles. You're allowed to use flotation devices on your legs to keep your legs up. You wear goggles, of course, when you get in the water. But apart from that, you're just running and swimming in exactly the same outfit. And the distances are, they can be fairly extreme. You'll be running. It's a bit like doing an Ironman. You're probably running 20 or so miles, and you're swimming 4 or 5 miles. And they'll be interspersed into, run 4 miles, swim for a mile, run 6 miles, swim for half a mile. It just depends on the terrain. So there isn't like a set distance like there is in most races. So it's not like a triathlon where you have a set distance for a swim, set distance for a bike, set distance for a run, because it's based on the geography of the area that you're doing it in, right? So they're all different, and I love that. It's like sort of being at one with nature, really. And again, it's not really about the how fast you go. It's about competing and being in nature, and so that's really been an evolution. My sort of relationship with endurance sports is that I like to challenge myself, and I'll pick something exotic to do once a year, or like going and running in the mountains in the Himalayas, or the desert in Morocco, or in Mongolia. We were going to run in this year, which has now been deferred because of coronavirus, and until next year, or in Iceland, or in the Alps, or wherever. So I'll always find some there once a year that I can really challenge myself, and then do a few marathons and here and there throughout the year to keep to keep fit. But it's really just to challenge myself, and it doesn't have to be running. It could be swimming, it could be a mountain bike race, it could be, you know, a triathlon. It's just something to keep me active. And I'm not particularly fast, but I enjoy it, and I meet so many cool people, and so that's really been my relationship with sports. And yours is slightly different, isn't it?
I think it's quite different for me. So I was really sporty as a kid, and I was a swimmer, like Barry said, and I went to a school called Millfield, which is like a sports school in the UK. But when I left school, I kept fit through university probably, but not massively. I did a bit, you know, I'd go to a class in Lycra and jump around a little bit. And I would say until I was about 35, I really did very little. And I was just busy. I was working and I had kids and I allowed my stress levels to get quite high and life was pretty difficult. And then I decided to take up running because I wanted to get a bit fitter and lose a bit of weight and, you know, get out of the house and do something on my own without children hanging off every limb. And so I took up running, and I was so incredibly unfit and so slow and so exhausted, and I could taste blood when I was running. You know, I was at that point of lack of fitness. But what I did realize was it was so good for my head, and it gave me a chance to just let those endorphins burn off, the cortisol and all those stress hormones that you build up through work. And it gave me time to think, and or more importantly, it gave me time to not think and just put one foot in front of the other. And as I got fitter and could go further, you sort of hit a point where you need it. And I really enjoyed running, and I enjoyed what it did for my, of course, physical health, but much more than that, for my mental health. I just felt so much better. And so when we got together and Barry suggested training for a marathon, my first reaction was, oh, why? I don't get it. I don't need that. This is not why I do it at all. I don't feel the need to do a challenge. I don't feel the need to prove anything. But I do really enjoy doing it together. And I'm willing to try most things once. And so we signed up for this night marathon in Bilbao. And as we were doing it, I was thinking, what on earth am I doing this for? This is the most ridiculous and stupid thing ever. He was trying to tell me jokes and cheer me up, and I was thinking, oh my God, I want to kill him. And then we crossed the finish line, and it was such an incredible feeling. I couldn't believe it. The feeling of achievement, of having gone through something that was so painful and so awful and done it anyway, and just kept going even though I wanted to stop, was such a feeling of achievement. I absolutely loved it. And so again, it's a little bit like having a baby. It hurts, but the feeling of achievement and triumph at the end of it makes it all worth it. So that's why I do it anyway. And now I do feel the need to keep on top of, keep physically fit. You know, you get to an age, don't you, and you start to need to do more exercise, because otherwise you just change shape. But also, our lives are so busy, and corporate life is hard because you have to think all the time, and your brain's constantly going, and you've got a bazillion things on your to-do list. So that time to get out and just run and just, you know, it's all about your body and how your feelings on the inside. It's just brilliant. So good for you.
I think
I feel like
really
I need it now.
helped us both, I think, actually.
Yeah.
We've both been in, you know, sort of senior leadership positions in technology businesses, a bit like yourself. And you have to manage the stress and, you know, the amount of time you work and how you spend your time. And so whether it's early mornings or after work in the evenings, but having just an hour or so for yourself to think has been really, really important in us managing our stress and staying positive and happy and, you know, and ensuring you can be a good leader to your teams. I think exercise has really helped us with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a guest in my podcast, and he's a coach as well. He's a 79-year-old triathlete, very interesting
Wow.
gentleman, Dwayne Solom, and so he talked about this whole thing about sympathetic and nervous system, and the lizard brain, and he used his fist to show that. And I think what you say makes a lot of sense, because in corporate life we are constantly switching between the lizard brain survival mode. There's this email that comes in, and it could be that your numbers were forecasts are not looking good. There goes the lizard brain. Yeah. And all of a sudden you're in this automatic mode of fight or flight, and by end of the day you're so freaking tired.
Yeah.
And your brain dead. You don't have time for your family. You're not available for your partner, your children.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work. And I think you make a great point, because when you go out on the run, all of a sudden you kind of declutch yourself from that fight or flight, and you're suddenly finding yourself relaxed. You're able to just get into the moment, and you can come back home and suddenly be present to other things in life.
Totally true. It's a chemical thing, right? So your endorphins or endomorphins, we're never quite sure what they're called, they kill those stress hormones, your adrenaline and your cortisol and all those hormones that are in your body, or cortisol, I think it is, your stress hormones. But whatever your stress hormones are, those positive hormones that you release when you do exercise, just neutralize them. That's why you feel so much better.
We were talking about this the other day, and the difference between reacting to something and responding to something. And especially if you're in a stressful situation, let's say you've received something and you're really angry about it, and you've got a choice then. You can react and send something back, or you can just leave it for a bit, maybe go for a run and think about what you're going to do and the implications and what you really should do, and then respond in a much more measured way. And that is, well, I think 100% of the time the best way to act. But again, time and exercise and space helps you really see things from a different perspective.
Yeah, and you rarely meet runners in corporate life who are grumpy and unhappy. I've not met many.
Yeah,
that is so true,
isn't it?
Yeah, okay. We've met so many great people. We've got great friends we've met through running and doing events. And you're right, they're typically like-minded. They're relatively positive people. You've got the courage, I suppose, to go and do these crazy events. And there's sort of something about that mentality that they'll put themselves out there to do something that's quite hard, despite having incredibly, hectic, busy, stressful lives. And so, there is something about a shared mentality for people who do these things, definitely.
There is. And it does feel like a real community, that especially endurance athletes, I don't know why, but there's something about people who run long distances or do these endurance events that there's at some plane, you're kind of the same. You know what you're going through, or you know what you're about to go through.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great thing. It is a great leveler. I did something called the Cape Ruff Ultra, which is an 8-day race in the Scottish Highlands. It's an incredibly difficult race, and it attracts some of the best runners in the world, actually. I mean, real amazing ultra runners. And they're, having dinner with you, and, I'm near the back of the pack, but not always making the cutoffs. And I did just about every day make the cutoffs. It's probably one of my proudest events as an endurance athlete, in that a lot of people didn't make the cutoffs each day, but I just managed to finish the race despite being injured and exhausted after 8 days and 250 miles or so in the mountains. But these guys are amazing athletes, and I'm there, at the back. But we all have dinner together and all chat, and all are friends, and that sort of your different abilities don't really make a difference. You're just having a shared experience together. I think there's something. Nice, it's a really nice experience. Yeah.
Yep. Now, coming to training. Now, both of you are busy, especially tech industry tend to have long hours. Now it's a global industry. Everyone is starting early, ending late, and things like that, right? So how do you make sure that you're able to get that training in a daily basis? What are your hacks for that?
It's it has to be a priority, and you have to make it a priority in your day, right? So I will block time out we both will block time out in our diaries where I'll have a couple of hours where I'm, mark it as private, and it's basically my time to go for a run or go to the gym. We've got a little gym at home, go on the Peloton or do something. So during lockdown, I've had a routine of getting up, early-ish, going for my run, and then coming back and having a bit of breakfast and starting the day. When it wasn't lockdown in normal life, I used to travel a lot, so every week I'd be flying somewhere in Europe. And so then you've just got to make sure you don't just go straight to the bar after work. You actually go to the gym first and work out for, an hour, and then join the other guys in the bar. And I've always been pretty disciplined about that. It's such an important part of my life that I prioritize it. And because I've been doing it for so long. And if I don't exercise for 2 or 3 days, and I start to feel, grumpy, I start to get a bit more stressed, and I've sort of checked myself, and you don't want to get completely obsessed with it. No. So you have to train twice a day, every day, and I'm certainly not like that. But unless I train 5 days a week, then as I say, I will get a bit more grumpy than I am usually. So I prioritize it, and no matter how busy I am, I'll always make an hour in my day for exercise. And you're pretty similar.
Yeah, I think because it makes me feel good, and so I fit it in somehow. But I mean, we do not have a structured training regime, Santosh. I think it's fair to say that what was the last long event we did? In fact, before Iceland even, it was about 3 or 4 weeks before Iceland, and I looked at him and said, I don't think we've run more than 9 miles for months and months and months. So we went out for a 17 or 18 mile run, and we were like, oh well, that'll do. So we're not one of these. I'm definitely not one of these people, and as a couple, we're not big on having a structured training plan and increasing our miles and all of that. In a way, I'd love to have the time and the headspace to worry about that, but I don't. And I'm not competitive enough to mind whether I come at the front of the field or the back of the field, or beat my personal best, or just go slower than I've ever gone before. I think all of that's fine. So we don't go through too much structure, but we do fit a lot of exercise in. And we'll say on a Friday night, oh, let's go for a long run on Sunday, and just fit it in and make it happen.
No, I think you make a good point. Although you say you're not disciplined, but I do hear that there is a pattern in terms of activity, and you are constantly moving and you're working out. It may not be a specific spreadsheet-based approach, because you're probably beyond that, and but the point I think you're making is very important, because your focus seems to be that you want to maintain a certain level of fitness through a combination of things that you're doing instinctively, which is fine, right? It's not about so much, following a spreadsheet that you need to. That's one way to do it, but as long as you're able to instinctively throw in those workouts, however randomly it's happening, end of the day it shows up when you go out on those events, and you're able to do those, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I really respect those people who do have that spreadsheet-based approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just doesn't fit for me personally.
Yeah. No, we do it so that we can continue to drink wine and eat crisps.
Yes.
Hey, that's the whole idea, right? You gotta have fun in life. It's this is not about adding suffering to your life. This is about enhancing your life, right? So exactly. So I don't think any one of us here is propagating, hey, you know what, stop everything that you do that's working and go do all these endurance events. No, it's about enhancing it. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, being able to sort of incorporate it into like holidays, really vacations. I think we were supposed to be in Mongolia doing this event, but COVID stopped us. So we're doing it next year, hopefully, if all goes to plan. But we go to Mongolia, right? Somewhere where not that many people travel, and we would fly into Ulaanbaatar, the capital. Then you get a like a Land Rover or something, takes you hours out into the wilderness, and you'll be with the local people. You'll be running through landscapes which the normal people don't, or people don't generally see on a normal basis.
We'll be eating yak.
Yeah, I mean, you're running in deserts.
Maybe our only chance.
And mountains. Yeah, I mean, and so those sort of experience, being able to combine your interest, your passion for running and endurance challenges with going to an exotic place or exotic
anywhere
place.
new, really.
Yeah, anywhere new is a really nice way of combining those two things, I think, and also getting away from, your mobile phone, which is always in arm's reach. I doubt we will be checking our email when we're in Mongolia. It's like it's lesser importance. It really does enable you to switch off. Doing something like that. You wear different clothes. You don't have to wash your hair or shave. It's just you can pretend you're an adventurer.
Yes, we are adventurous. Come on.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense, and I also see that you kind of like the Superwoman dress that you wore for the race. You're kind of also making it less less heavy or significant in your mind, and you're just having fun, and at the same time, getting fitter and stronger without making it all like another thing to do and the whole drama around it. So that's another thing I see you guys are doing so well, and it's a great takeaway for all of us who are listening to this. Fantastic conversation. Now, before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask you: is there anything you would like to, any last message, any bottom line that you want to convey to our audience here?
I think I would say, because I always have something to say sometimes. The thing I would say is that when I was 35 and slightly overweight and slightly overwrought, and I went out running for the first time, I cannot think of anything I would less rather do. When I got to the end of that run, I felt so miserable and so exhausted and so hot and so terrible, and my legs hurt so much. I could easily have said, I don't think running's for me. And I hear it all the time. People say, oh, no, running's not for me. But I am so glad that I persisted with it, because it's for everybody. We as humans, running and moving your body in that way without machines or anything like that is supernatural. And this is clearly what we are supposed to do. Yeah. And with every day, every run, every week, every month, as you get fitter and stronger and start to feel the benefit of it and how much better it makes you feel, it really is for everybody. And I'm not saying that everybody must run or everybody should run, but if you feel like, oh, I can't do that. When we first met, I didn't want to run outdoors. I didn't want to run in the park or on the street because people would see me. And we were in a town. I'd always been in the countryside, and I didn't mind in the countryside because having a rabbit spot you running past was okay. But I didn't want people to see me running. And now I don't know what was wrong with that person. So I would say, if you're feeling, oh my goodness, people will see me in lycra and see me looking all hot and sweaty, they will, and they'll probably be thinking, well, good on you, get out there, have fun, get fit, it's really important. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. And I mean, I suppose I would say enjoy it. I mean, it's fun. If you got it, it's very rare you go for a run and come back and say, well, I really wish I hadn't done that. You will always feel better afterwards. And no matter how, if waking up early and going for a run is hard for some people, right? Because your brain stops you. There's so many other things you prefer to do, like stay in bed and sleep. And so if you get my strategy is always, I'll get my kit ready the night before. It'll be by the bed. The alarm will go off, and I have this thing I always say to Eleanor: don't think, just do. Don't think, just do. DTJD, just get out of bed, get your kit on, and we'll go. Because if you think about it, you won't do it, right? Because you'll think, oh my God, it's cold. I really don't want to get out of bed. So don't think, just do, and get out there and do it. And you will always feel better when you come back. Just have the right mindset to enjoy it. And I'd say to anybody listening who's going for a long run, that's again all about mindset. Just think to yourself, I'm going to go out for 4 hours. I'm going out for 4 hours. I don't care how far I go, but we're going to leave at 7 o'clock and I'm going to be out till 11, and then we'll have coffee and cake when we come back. It's about a mindset. Or even, we're going out for the day. So you're out for the day. Your expectations are you're going to be out training for the entire day. So you're not, you're expecting that. So then if you finish and, only half a day, it's a benefit.
so
it's a
much
real
better.
mindset that just it's an experience and an adventure, and go out and explore new places. The other thing I'd say is, for long runs, go and see something. Go and have some sort of purpose to your run. Don't just run around the park 10 times. You think, I haven't been down this track or been to this town or done something, and maybe I'll go and meet the family there for lunch afterwards or something. I'll run there and the family will meet us there, and we'll have lunch. Have some sort of purpose. So you're going to a destination. I think that's really important. So.
Terrific. Hey, by the way, those are great tips. I think some of those comments you're making as a final comments were some great tips. I think that we can all take away back in terms of just getting into being consistent with our runs and getting consistent with our fitness. Hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate both of you taking the time out, and keep at it. Continue to do those adventure races. We're going to keep, I'll definitely be following you in terms of your next adventure you're up to, and hope to be in touch and have a good evening.
Yeah,
thanks,
thanks,
Santosh.
Santosh.
Really nice to meet you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We want to carry on doing these into our 80s. That's the plan.
Yeah.
All right.
Great to chat.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.